Tenants in one community are demanding that the landlord sell his properties and leave the community as soon as possible because they blame him for the crime problems in the area. But are they willing to take personal responsibility? I don't think so. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Tucson, Arizona, specifically out of South Tucson, and it has to do with a apartment complex or a couple of apartment complexes that a landlord owns, and how a community believes that these apartment complexes are attracting crime to the area and that it's the landlord's fault that these issues exist. Right now, I am not of the personal opinion that a landlord can really do a lot about the crime in an entire community. You know, we can only control what is being done on our property. And in terms of, you know, the tenants that we put into our property, we want to put the best tenants in there possible, the ones that have the least problems. But you know, we could put security up, we could put cameras up, we could put the best tenants in our units possible, and there still be a crime problem because the area itself, you know, it's a haven for crime, you know, and South Tucson is kind of known as being, you know, just a little bit more crime issues in the area. So, you know, I lived in Tucson for 4 years. You know, it is what it is. Everybody knows this about that area, but you know, the people who live there, yeah, do they deserve to live in a place where they don't have to worry about crime? Of course they do, but they have to take responsibility on their own. You can't sit here and say out of one side of your mouth, hey, we want the landlord to take care of this crime issue, but you know, you're sitting here and you're relaxed and you don't care about certain aspects of the criminal problem. Okay, so you know, it's frustrating in one way. You know, it's an interesting story. I'm gonna go over the whole thing in detail, let you know what I think as I go through it. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think a landlord or an apartment complex is responsible for the crime in an area? Now, obviously, yes, there's going to be higher crime in an area that has apartment complexes. We all know this, okay? This is fact, period, okay? The people who rent properties and live in apartment buildings are more likely to commit crime. That is a fact, okay? There's no question about it. You can look at the statistics, any city in this entire country, and see that it's true, okay? But I'm going to say this too, right? Also keep in mind that a lot of the people living in these apartment complexes are lower income. So we have a lot of lower income people who are renters living in the same little, you know, small area. And yes, there's going to be more crime. Okay, so it's just bound to happen. I don't think that the landlord is to blame for that crime. No, I think that we should blame the people who commit the crimes. That would be the best thing to do. Rather than saying, hey, it's society's fault or it's the landlord's fault. Well, maybe it is Bob, the guy who's robbing people over there. His name is Bob. Maybe we should go arrest him and put him in jail and make sure he doesn't get out. You know, so what this really comes down to is we need to enforce the laws that are on the books. We need to not be soft on the criminals, and we need to lock them up, period. And guess what? We can minimize the amount of crime that we have to deal with. That's what we're trying to do. We can't eliminate crime 100%, but we can minimize the amount of crime we have to deal with and stop blaming landlords for issues that are not truly their fault. You know what? If a landlord decides, hey, I'm going to buy an apartment building in an area that's already full of crime, you know, it's a D-class area, you know, like you're investing in this area, you know the crime is already high in this area, and you buy an apartment building there, it's not like all of a sudden it's your job to get rid of that crime. No, the area was already full of crime. Like I said, we can only control what was going on our property in terms of, hey, making sure we have sufficient security, making sure that we do proper tenant screening, making sure that, you know, the place is kept clean and kept updated. So yeah, I don't think it's the landlord's fault. Anyway, let's see what the article says about this whole situation. This article is coming from KVOA.com, and it says, South Tucson community rallies to send landlord out of town. Yeah, they're rallying to send the landlord out of town. Maybe they should be rallying against the crime. Maybe they should be reporting on the crimes that they witness. Maybe they should be, snitching. That's what I would do. I'd be snitching on those criminals who live within the units with you. Why are you allowing this stuff to go on? Okay? And if the worst case scenario is move out of this place. If the crime is so bad, why are you living there? Whatever. Anyway, let me get into the article. I'm going to really rip this garbage apart. These people, they frustrate me. Sell your properties and get out of town. That's the message the South Tucson community wants to send to property owner Brian Bowers. News 4 Tucson was told he hasn't made any of the necessary changes he swore in court to make to minimize crime in and around his two properties. A rally took place Thursday in an ongoing effort to get the South Tucson landlord to sell two properties the city said has been problematic to the community for several years. Councilmember Roxana Valenzuela attended and helped organize the rally. We are hoping he realizes he is not a good fit for our community, Valenzuela said, and he is not welcome and that he takes his business somewhere else. So, trying to pressure a landlord into selling a property because you don't like that landlord, dumb, okay? The main thing that you should be focusing on is the landlord keeping the property well maintained? Is the landlord following the laws that the city has set, okay? The landlord is not responsible for crime. Landlord cannot prevent crime. Landlord can work to minimize it, but that's it. Valenzuela volunteers with Casa Maria Soup Kitchen. She said it's been 2 months since the city of Tucson filed a civil lawsuit against Bowers. The lawsuit alleges that nothing has been done about the criminal activity at both properties throughout the last year. It brings in a lot of criminal activity that spills over to the rest of the city, Valenzuela explained. And it very well may, okay? But here's the real question, right? What is the city itself doing about that crime? Okay, are they arresting the people committing the crimes? Are they locking them up? Are they prosecuting them? Simply put, if we're going after the criminals, then what are we, what do you expect the landlord to do? Do you expect them to hire their own personal security force to shoot the criminals on site? I mean, really, what? Are we supposed to build a private prison that we're throwing people in? What are we supposed to be doing? I feel that there are a lot of people and they expect more out of a landlord, they want to shift the blame. That's what I feel like. I feel like the city itself, the people themselves want to shift the blame away from themselves and then point it at this landlord. Now, I looked at properties in South Tucson when I lived in Tucson, okay? And I was this close to buying one. There was a nice sixplex. I can't exactly remember what part, what street it was on, right? But I remember I looked at a sixplex down there, and it was a very, very cheap, building. And the only reason I didn't get it was because there had been a windstorm, and so I believe the roof had significant damage on it at the time. And I said, okay, I don't want to have to deal with immediately replacing this roof on this sixplex, right? And so I didn't end up buying it. And I ended up buying a fourplex in a different part of town. So, it ended up working out well for me that I didn't end up in South Tucson. But, now looking at the way things are going down there and realizing just how rough a part of town that is, I'm like, oh, I'm fortunate that I didn't end up buying that, okay? So, yeah, it's insane when you look at it. And just to give you an idea of how long ago this was back in 2014. I believe that sixplex was $195,000, okay? And just in case you don't know, that's extremely cheap. Okay, that's extremely cheap. So anyway, let me continue with this article. The lawsuit alleges that during the rally, ballet teacher Joey Rogers said his business has been impacted because of the uptick in crime. The building has been torched, he said. The building has been urinated on, and I have kids who I teach ballet to. Valenzuela also said residents in 6th Avenue Suites and Spanish Trail Suites have faced unlivable conditions. One guy, he literally had to scoop out his waste from his toilet and take it all the way out to the desert, she said. He did that for months because they neglected to fix the issues. Ashley Clark lives in Spanish Trail Suites and told News 4 Tucson not only is she concerned about her safety there, but she is constantly being neglected by the landlord as well. You know, I always see these stories of neglect, right? And I want to see evidence, okay? Because a lot of the stories of neglect are just because, you know, you feel, oh, well, this isn't, you know, I don't like this landlord or whatever, right? I told the landlord something was broken and it took him 2 weeks to fix it. Well, it took 2 weeks for his contractor to get out there and get it done, okay? And it wasn't an emergency, so they were able to get it done in a relatively quick time. So, you know, maybe you should learn how things work. You know, this isn't the world of snap your fingers and everything gets repaired instantly. But, you know, I don't know exactly what's going on in this situation. I don't know anything other than the fact that I don't feel that a landlord should be blamed for crime problems in the city, okay? Now, if you told me that the landlord was the ringleader of the drug cartel himself, well, then maybe I'd agree with you. But no, otherwise, the city itself needs to get off their butt, arrest the criminals, lock them up, send them to prison.